Right, Year 5, I thought I'd read you the class reader from school today, and we're reading A Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Okay, Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Now, over the next few days, it'll be Mr. Fairbrother and Mrs. Wiley that might read to you, and I might see if I can get a special guest too, but let's see how we get on. So I'm on page 48. When given the choice between being right or being kind, choose kind. Okay, so everybody, he said, facing us again, I want you to start a brand new section in your notebooks and call it Mr. Brown's Precepts. He kept talking as we did what he was telling us to do. Put today's date at the top of the first page, and from now on, at the very beginning of every month, I'm going to write a new Mr. Brown precept on the chalkboard, and you're going to write it down on your notebook. Then we're going to discuss that precept and what it means. And at the end of the month, you're going to write an essay about it, about what it means to you. So by the end of the year, you'll have your very own list of precepts to take away with you. Over the summer, I ask all my students to come up with their very own personal precept, write it on a postcard and mail it to me from wherever you go on your summer vacation. People really do that, said one girl, whose name I didn't know. Oh yeah, he answered, people really do that. I've had students send me new precepts years after they've graduated from this school, actually. It's pretty amazing. He paused and stroked his beard. But anyway, next summer seems like a long way off, I know, he joked, which made us laugh. So everybody, relax a bit while I take attendance, and then, when we're finished with that, I'll start telling you about all the fun stuff we're going to be doing this year in English. He pointed to Jack when he said this, which was also funny, so we all laughed at that. As I wrote down Mr. Brown's September precept, I suddenly realised that I was going to like school, no matter what. Lunch. Via had warned me about lunch in middle school, so I guess I should have known it would be hard. I just hadn't expected it to be this hard, basically. All the kids from the 5th grade classes poured into the cafeteria at the same time, talking loudly, bumping into one another while they ran to different tables. One of the lunchroom teachers said something about no seat saving allowed, but I didn't know what she meant, and maybe no one else did either, because just about everyone was saving seats for their friends. I tried to sit down at one table, but the kid in the chair next said, "Oh, sorry, someone sat there." So I moved to an empty table and just waited for everyone to finish stampeding and the lunchroom teacher to tell us what to do next. As she started telling us the cafeteria rules, I looked around to see where Jack Will was sitting, but I didn't see him on my side of the room. Kids were still coming in as the teacher started calling the first few tables to get their trays and stand on a line at the counter. Julian, Henry and Miles were sitting at the table towards the back of the room. Mum had packed me a cheese sandwich, graham crackers and a juice box, so I didn't need to stand on line when my table was called. Instead, I just concentrated on opening my backpack, pulling out my lunch bag and slowly opening the aluminium foil wrapping of my sandwich. I could tell I was being stared at without even looking up. I knew that people were nudging each other, watching me out of the corners of their eyes. I thought I was used to those kinds of stares by now, but I guess I wasn't. There was one table of girls that I knew were whispering about me because they were talking behind their hands. Their eyes and whispers kept bouncing over to me. I hate the way I eat. I know how weird it looks. I had a surgery to fix my cleft palate when I was a baby, and then a second cleft surgery when I was 4. But I still have a hole on the roof of my mouth, and even though I had a jaw alignment surgery a few years ago, I have to chew food at the front of my mouth. I didn't even realise how this looked until I was at a birthday party once, and one of the kids told the mum of the birthday boy he didn't want to sit next to me because I was too messy with all the food and crumbs shooting out of my mouth. I know the kid wasn't trying to be mean, but he got into big trouble later, and his mum called my mum that night to apologise. When I got home from the party, I went to the bathroom mirror and started eating a saltine cracker to see what I looked like when I was chewing. The kid was right. I eat like a tortoise, if you've ever seen a tortoise eating. Like some prehistoric swamp thing. The summer table. Hey, is this seat taken? I look up and a girl I never saw before was standing across from my table with a lunch tray full of food. She had long wavy brown hair and wore a brown t-shirt with a purple peace sign on it. Uh-oh, she said. She put her lunch tray on the table, plopped a black backpack on the floor and sat down from across from me. She started to eat the mac and cheese on her plate. Ugh, she said after swallowing the first bite. I should have bought a sandwich like you did. Yeah, I said, nodding. My name's Summer, by the way. What's yours? August. Cool, she said. Summer! Another girl came over to the table carrying a tray. Why are you sat here? Come back and sit at the table. It was too crowded, Summer answered her. Come and sit here, there's more room. The other girl looked confused for a second. I realised she had been one of the girls I had caught looking at me just a few minutes earlier. Hand cupped over her mouth, whispering. I guess Summer had been one of the girls at that table too. Never mind, said the girl, leaving. Summer looked at me, shrugged, smiled, and took another bite of her mac and cheese. Hey, our names kind of match, she said as she chewed. I guess she could tell I didn't know what she meant. Summer. August, she said, smiling, her eyes wide open as she waited for me to get it. Oh, yeah, I said after a second. We can make this a summer-only lunch table, she said. Only the kids with summer names can sit here. Let's see. Is there anyone here named June or Julie? There's a Maya, I said. Technically, May is spring, Summer answered. But if she wanted to sit here, we could make an exception. She said it as if she'd actually thought the whole thing through. There's Julian. That's like the name Julia, which comes from July. I didn't say anything. There's a kid named Reed in my English class, I said. Yeah, I know, Reed, but how is Reed a summer name? She asked. I don't know, I shrugged. I just like picture. I like a reed of grass being a summer thing. Yeah, okay, she nodded, pulling out a notebook. And Miss Potosa could sit here too. That kind of sounds like the word petal, which I think of as a summer thing too. I have her for homeroom, I said. I have her for math, she answered, making a face. She started writing the list of names on the second to last page of her notebook. So who else? She said. By the end of lunch, we had to come up with a whole list of names of kids and teachers who could sit at our table if they wanted. Most of the names weren't actually summer names, but they were the names that had some kind of connection to summer. I even found a way of making Jack Will's name work by pointing out that you could turn his name into a sentence about summer, like Jack will go to the beach, which Summer agreed worked fine. But if someone doesn't have a summer name and wants to sit with us, she said very seriously, we'll still let them have the nice, okay? Okay, I nodded, even if it's a winter name. Cool beans, she answered, giving me a thumbs up. Summer looked like her name. She had a tan, and her eyes were green like a leaf. 1 to 10. Mum always had this habit of asking me how I felt on a scale from 1 to 10. It started after I had my jaw surgery, when I couldn't talk because my mouth was wired shut. They had taken a piece of bone from my hip bone to insert into my chin to make it look more normal, so I was hurting in a lot of different places. Mum would point to one of my bandages, and I would hold up my fingers to show her how much it was hurting. 1 meant a little bit. 10 meant so much. Then she would just tell the doctor when he made his rounds what needed adjusting or things like that. Mum got really good at reading my mind sometimes. After that, we got into the habit of doing a 1 to 10 scale for everything that hurt. Like, say I just had a plain sore throat. She'd ask 1 to 10, and I'd say 3, or whatever that was. When school was over, I went outside to meet Mum, who was waiting for me at the front entrance like all the other parents or babysitters. The first thing she said after hugging me was, So, how was it? 1 to 10. 5, I said, shrugging, which I could tell totally surprised her. Wow, she said quietly, that's even better than I hoped for. Are we picking Bea up? Miranda's mother is picking her up today. Do you want me to carry your bag, sweetness? We had started walking through the crowd of kids and parents, most of whom were noticing me, secretly pointing me out to each other. I'm fine, I said. It looks too heavy, Oggy. She started to take it from me. Mum, I said, pulling my backpack away from her. I walked in front of her through the crowd. See you tomorrow, August. It was Summer. She was walking in the opposite direction. Bye, Summer, I said, waving at her. As soon as we crossed the street and were far away from the crowd, Mum said, Who was that, Oggy? Summer. Is she in your class? I have lots of classes. Is she in any of your classes? Mum said. Nope. Mum waited for me to say something else, but I just didn't feel like talking, so it went okay, said Mum. I could tell she had a million questions she wanted to ask me. Everyone was nice. Did you like your teachers? Yeah. How about those kids you met last week? Were they nice? Fine, fine. Jack hung out with me a lot. That's so great, sweetie. What about that boy, Julian? I thought about that Darth Sidious comment. By now it felt like that had happened 100 years ago. He was okay, I said. And the blonde girl, what was her name? Charlotte, Mum. I said everyone was nice already. Okay, Mum answered. I honestly don't know why I was kind of mad at Mum, but I was. We crossed Amesport Avenue, and she didn't say anything else until we turned on our block. So, Mum said, how did you meet Summer if she wasn't in any of your classes? We sat together at lunch, I said. I had started kicking a rock between my feet like it was a soccer ball, chasing it back and forth across the sidewalk. She seems very nice. Yes, she is. She's very pretty, Mum said. Yeah, I know, I answered. We're kind of like Beauty and the Beast. I didn't wait to see Mum's reaction. I had just started running down the sidewalk after the rock, which I kicked as hard as I could in front of me. That night, I cut off the little braid on the back of my head. Dad noticed first. Oh, good, he said. I never liked that thing. Via couldn't believe I cut it off. That took you years to grow, she said, almost like she was angry. Why did you cut it off? I don't know, I answered. Did someone make fun of it? No. Did you tell Christopher you're cutting it off? We're not even friends anymore. That's not true, she said. I can't believe you would just cut it off like that, she added snottily, and then practically slammed my bedroom door shut as she left the room. I was snuggling with Daisy on my bed when Dad came to tuck me in later. He scooched Daisy gently and lay down next to me on the blanket. So, Oggy Doggy, he said, it was really an okay day? He got that from an old cartoon about a dachshund named Oggy Doggy, by the way. He had bought it me on eBay when I was about 4, and we watched it a lot for a while, especially in hospital. He would still call me Oggy Doggy, and I would still call him dear old Dad, like the puppy called Dachshund Dad on the show. Yeah, it was totally okay, I said, nodding. You've been quiet all night long. I'm going to end there on page 57, and I'd like you to listen along, and tomorrow we're going to have a quiz on that little section of the book. Well done, Year 5.